Hi there, and welcome to the Mindful Marathon podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Michelle Quirk, a run coach and pediatrician. Mindful Marathon is all about helping runners of all types to run their own race. Whether you are a seasoned runner or you're just getting started, I want to let you know that you're welcome here and that you're in the right place. Hi, my friend. Welcome back to the podcast. We are on episode 49. So, this episode is the next chapter in a couple of episodes tailored more for my beginners or for those runners who have taken some time off of running and are getting back into it. In last week's episode, we talked about running lessons from my own journey. And if you haven't listened yet, I'd start there before you listen to this episode. Now, for many years, I told myself I wasn't a real runner for a variety of reasons, because I wasn't very fast, because I walked sometimes, because I didn't think I looked like the other runners out there. And so I want to call out that many beginners and actually a lot of experienced runners carry false beliefs that keep them from ever starting in the sport or from sticking with the sport. And for my experienced runners, false beliefs can really hold them back from reaching their full potential in the sport. So, in this episode, I'm going to share 5 common lies, the truth behind them, and how to move forward. Now, don't forget, I have a free workshop coming up on September 2nd called The Confident Runner Formula: 5 Secrets to Training for Your Next Race. I'm really excited about this workshop, and I'm going to be sharing the strategies I've used to help runners go from their very first miles to crossing lots of finish lines with confidence. So, more on that at the end of the episode. Now, I alluded to this a little bit last week, but I definitely went through a phase, like an imposter syndrome phase as a runner. Like, who am I to be a runner? Who am I to be lining up at this start line? And I think, there's lots of reasons why that is. Sometimes overhearing comments, seeing race photos, comparing yourself as a runner to other runners on Strava and social media. Over the years, as a runner and a coach, I've heard a lot of the same myths from others. And so part of the reason I want to do this episode is to bust them. So here are 5 running lies and the truth. Okay, so lie number 1. You have to have natural ability or be born a runner. Now, when I say the word runner, what comes to mind? What are you thinking of? Maybe you're thinking of a young track star, an Olympian. I don't know. But there are runners we know who have been athletes since they were young, but not every runner fits that description. So I'm going to just share a little bit about my mom here. So my mom is a brisk walker. And I convinced her and my mother-in-law to run their first half marathon with me for the 2016 half marathon in Disney World. So we did a Run Disney race as our first half marathon. And my mom and I and my mother-in-law, we all used a run walk method to train for that half marathon, which I'll talk about in a little bit. But my mom was in her 60s when she ran that half marathon. And I'll just fast forward a little bit. So now she's in her 70s and she recently set a PR in the 10K. So she's still going and she still hasn't reached her full running potential. So the truth is that running is a skill you can build at any age. And if I have someone out there listening who is perhaps not in the younger age bracket, please know that this sport is accessible to you too, and age is just a number. So go mom in law. Okay, lie number two, you have to be fast. Ooh, okay. A friend told me a story, and this made me cringe a little bit. She had asked another runner for advice on how to improve. And my runner friend, when she explained that her jog pace was around a 14-minute mile and that this was where she was starting from, the runner laughed at her and said, "That's walking." False, my friends, false. Runners run at all different speeds, okay? 5-minute miles, 20-minute miles, and everything in between. We are all runners, and you're welcome here. And I want to say that fast is kind of relative. Like, there's fast for me, fast for you. There's fast for an elite runner, fast for an Olympian. There's fast for someone running 100 meters on the track and fast for an Olympic marathoner. Like, I know it's easier said than done, but we really have to try not to compare ourselves. And I point out to people, like, we are recreational runners, right? Like, most of us are not getting paid to do this. It's not our full-time job. The goal is centered around fitness and wellness and fun and improving ourselves. And what I say is we embrace our current fitness wherever that is, and we work from that point. So the truth here is that pace is relative. Running is about consistency, wellness, and personal progress. Lie number three. Ooh, here we go. Lie number three, you can't walk. All right. I got to check this one at the door. So it ties a little bit in with lie number two, and I've already alluded to this a bit. So many runners use scheduled walk breaks to train and to race. Now, when I started training consistently, and my mom and my mother-in-law and I were training for that first half marathon, we used Jeff Galloway's run, walk, run method to train for that race. So, who's Jeff Galloway? What is run, walk, run? Okay. So, Jeff Galloway is a run coach. He was an Olympian in the late 70s, and he, I would say, really popularized running, recreational running for regular humans like me and you, and brought a lot more people to the sport because of this method. And what run walk intervals are, basically, this means that you run for a short period of time, you have a walk break for a short period of time, and then you run again and walk again, and you alternate. There are timers that you can set up for this, nothing fancy, like you can literally download a free app on your phone that is an interval timer and use that to be able to train. Many watches, like the Garmin watch, has an interval timer that you can set up. The nice part about this is that it's a great gateway into longer distances. So, what I love about this training technique is that it is very customizable to the runner. So, you could start somewhere like a 15-second jog and a 30-second walk interval and work up from there. If that feels good, you can slowly titrate up your jogging interval and maybe slowly decrease your walking interval if that feels good to you. And I really like this, especially for people who are trying out longer distances for the first time, because sometimes we just don't feel like we have the endurance to run consistently. And no matter how much as a coach I say to slow down and continue to slow down and continue to find your easy pace, sometimes the walk interval really helps runners to figure out what that easy pace is for them. And I trained for my first couple of half marathons using this training technique, and it worked wonders. And I've worked with a number of athletes who train using run walk intervals, and they've run all sorts of races and race distances from 5K to half marathon to full marathon. And I'm even going to go a step further and say I have a couple of very dear friends who are ultra runners. They use run walk intervals because they're usually on these crazy trails, right? Like there's lots of places for potential falls and injury, rocks and roots, and they're going up crazy mountains and they need to walk those tough sections of the trail And they also need to walk at the aid stops. I mean, sometimes they stop and sit down at the aid stops. Are you going to tell me that because they took a walk break and they sat down once during a 100-mile trail race that they're not a real runner? I don't think so. So, truth, walking can be a great gateway to the sport of running. Walking can make running more sustainable and enjoyable. And walking is a tool, not a weakness. And I will just close this one out by saying if you run, you're a runner. Okay. Lie number four. Sorry, that one got me fired up. Okay. Lie number four. You have to go a certain distance or have a race goal. Now, here I have a story about one of my athletes. So, one of my athletes recently picked up running again after several years off. So, she loved to run half marathons a couple of times a year. And then, after having kids, she didn't run at all for about 4 years. And her goal when we started working together was to get back to running regularly most of the days of the week. But she didn't necessarily have a certain time or distance goal. She didn't have a race that she was training for. And a lot of people, they get hung up on the thought, well, I'm not a real runner because I've never run a marathon. And I want to point out that the statistics say that only about 1% of us will actually run a marathon. So the truth here is that there's no required distance you have to run to call yourself a runner. We can run consistently for our health and for fun without ever having to sign up for any races or step up to any start line. And that takes us to lie number five. You have to have a certain body type or reach a certain weight before you can run. I've heard this one a lot. Once I get to a certain weight, I'll try running. The truth is that most of us can run at the weight we are at right now. I say this often. I'm a physician, but I'm not your physician. So definitely check with your doctor first and get the all clear. But I have a feeling that you can run. Many people tell me they're worried about how they'll look in running attire. What if certain body parts jiggle? What if certain areas chafe? What will the other runners think? So I'll take these one at a time. So comfortable and well-fitting running clothes and running wear definitely help, especially with jiggling and especially with chafing. Perhaps that's a topic for another day, actually. Maybe a gear episode is in order. But yes, I think the mindset shift here is really the critical point. The other piece about what other runners will think. When I am out there on the pavement running, I have to say that I am very focused on the ground in front of me so that I don't trip and fall, so that I don't run into anyone. I'm very focused on my own training, and I'm really just sort of aware of my surroundings, but I'm not really worrying about how the other runners look, except maybe to say hi, like give a wave and hi, but otherwise I don't think about that. And I know I'm only speaking for myself here, but I don't think the other runners are really worried about how we look. I really don't. So the truth here is that running is for all shapes and sizes, and comfort, safety, and confidence come from the right gear and the right mindset, not from having what we think is a runner's body. Like I said earlier, if you run, you're a runner. And if you run, you have a runner's body. How about that? So, to tie everything up, I want to add sort of a bonus point here about mindset. I mentioned in the last episode that I started running in 2012 pretty regularly, but I didn't start working with my own running coach until 2017. And I knew of this coach for a while before I got up the courage to reach out to him for help. And I think there were a number of reasons why, but when I first reached out to him, I still thought that I didn't belong in the runners club, that you had to show up to this club with some kind of ability to run fast. And I thought, you know, a run coach is helping all of these runners who are way more talented and way faster than I am. Like, why would he want to work with me? Does he even have the time to work with little old me who is plodding along at a 12-minute mile, you know? And now I can see, obviously, that this is really silly, but that change in my brain did not happen overnight. And I remember being very nervous to reach out to him as a newer runner and as someone who had never really been an athlete and never had an athletic coach of any kind. So I think once we recognize that a lot of these lies are just stories that we're telling ourselves, then we can change the narrative. So I have homework for you. So this week, when one of these lies pops up, I want you to replace it with a truth statement. So I'm going to review the 5 running lies and then also the truths. Okay. So number 1 was you have to have natural ability or be born a runner. Lie number 2, you have to be fast. Lie number 3, you can't walk. Lie number 4, you have to go a certain distance or have a certain race goal. And lie number 5, you have to have a certain body type or be at a certain weight before you can run. So this week, I want you to tie on your sneakers and take one step toward proving one of these lies wrong. And I want to reassure you again, you're a runner the moment you start running. It doesn't matter the pace, the distance, or the starting point. If today's episode has you feeling inspired to start or restart your running journey, I'd love for you to join me for my upcoming workshop, The Confident Runner Formula: 5 Secrets to Training for Your Next Race. We're going to dive deeper into the strategies I use with my athletes so that you can train smarter and not harder, run stronger, and feel more confident on your race day. You can grab a spot at the link that I'll leave in the show notes. And if you have a fall 10K on your radar, a 10K is 6.2 miles, my 10K Your Way program is coming soon. I'm super excited about it. It's going to be an 8-week group program leading up to the Run the Bridge 10K event here in Philadelphia on November 2nd. If you are local to the area, we're going to have some in-person group runs, but if you are not local to the area, the race actually has a virtual option, so this group is open to anyone wanting to train for a 10K. You can pop your name onto the waitlist now so that you're the first to know when registration opens and get all of the bonuses and the discounts associated with that. So you'll find both of those links for the workshop and the 10K Your Way program waiting for you in the show notes. I can't wait to help you train for your next race, no matter your starting point. So thanks again for joining me, and I will see you next week. Thank you for listening today. If you enjoyed the episode, please share it with a friend. And if you have a moment, please rate and review the podcast so that we can reach and encourage others to tie on their sneakers and join us out there on a run. See you next time.